Yes, I understand the irony of posting a video that says the internet can destroy your inner peace when, in all likelihood, you're watching this video on the internet. The thing I wanted to get across, something that I have been thinking about for a long time, but I think that I need to take some action on, is that the internet is ultimately a tool that connects you to the human conscious and unconscious, subconscious, whatever, of all of humanity, from its best to its worst. And even if you don't want to judge it, just to things that are very different and not focused on things like being aware, enlightenment, self improvement, all those things that I assume you care about if you're watching this video. And especially if you deal with any kind of mental illness or emotional problem, and I've talked about on this channel obsessive thinking, anxiety, depression, all those things I've dealt with. The internet is a huge trap and is not going to help you in most ways. So there's a few ways in which I wanted to discuss how the internet is something that probably should be uh, either avoided entirely or that's not going to happen. I mean, you're on it right now, I'm on it. Or to heavily watch yourself and make sure that you're not just getting sucked down a black hole of negativity and I don't want to sound too new agey here, but vibrations that are not in tune with what you want and what you're trying to achieve in your inner life. And I think also, this video isn't just for INFJs, but if your personality type is INFJ or INFP or one of the more rare intuitive types, the internet is really not for you. It's not going to resonate with you very well unless you find very niche communities. Like maybe these videos, and I've seen many videos online that I'm like, oh man, that's so true. But the vast majority of what's written on the internet, especially, is just going to make you feel confused and depressed because you're going to think, well, why is the world like this? Why do people think this way? And I'm not talking about the obvious, like, oh yeah, you can, you don't want to watch people get killed or something like that. I'm just talking about people expressing their thoughts and opinions and perspectives and what they see as reality. And it can seem very maybe innocuous when you're first browsing a forum or reading articles on different blogs or media publications online. And it seems like, oh, this person is just expressing their opinion. But it can be confusing because I think the written word, even on the internet, even when we know it's just some random person typing on a forum and they're not using correct usage of there and they have unnecessary commas everywhere. Even so, the written word has some level of authority, I think, that when you read something that someone took the time to write, even if it's stupid and you know this person's an idiot, you think to yourself, oh, there's something to this because it's written. It's the written word. Even if it's not a conscious thought, even if you know this person's just some dweeb who has nothing better to do than troll people, or even if it's not that, even if it's just, oh, this person doesn't believe the same thing I do, I don't have to listen to them. Because you've read it, I think it holds some more weight than if you just heard some stranger on the street talking about it. Now, even people just talking can mess you up inside a little bit. But I think the internet's especially dangerous because there's just a lot of opinion spewing. There's a lot of people talking about themselves and expressing what they think, and a lot of it's anonymous, so they go to extremes and they don't hide anything. They don't censor themselves. And not that I'm for censorship or anything here, but I'm just saying when you're in person, you're probably not going to overhear someone in a cafe talking about their cynical view on life for 30 minutes straight. You might, but it's not as likely as going on Reddit and reading someone who's written a paragraph uh, that long about how their life is awful and they think the world's terrible and things like that. And look, I'm not advocating sticking your head in the sand and pretending that no other perspectives exist. But what I am saying is that it's easy on the internet to overindulge, to overwhelm yourself, and to drown out the authentic voice of you within you. And for those of us who deal with some kind of anxiety or obsessive thought pattern, it can really set things off and be a bad trigger. Now, I've come to a point where I've realized that most of the voices in my head, and these are just voices that anyone would have, not crazy voices, let's set that straight. And not to say if you hear voices, you're crazy, but just the normal voices that everyone hears in their head. Most of them are not anything but an illusion. They're just being generated by your brain for whatever reason, perhaps as a survival tactic, and there's no reason to give any of it heed. And there's I think a few different basic voices that maybe are all feel the same, all sound the same, but they're not, and most of them aren't you. There's the voice of everyone in your head, and you think to yourself of what everyone would think of you when you say or do something, and or just how people view you. It's the idea of everyone that you have in your brain, which is really modeled off of the people closest to you, maybe the 5-10 people closest to you. That's your everyone in your head, but it's also your awareness of everyone you've ever met and everything you've ever read. So when you go onto the internet and you read all this stuff, your idea of everyone is warped and those voices are fed. And I believe it can cause a lot of pain when you overwhelm yourself with thoughts that other people have generated that don't really align with your thoughts and your goals. Especially if these other people are very caught up in their own ego, are not on any kind of path to spiritual awareness, enlightenment, who are just kind of trying to manage their life. And you'll see this a lot of times, like you'll be feeling all right. You have this perspective on life that everything is good, and like maybe my life itself isn't amazing, but you realize that I can handle anything that comes my way. And then you read something online written by someone who's very cynical, and they say, man, life is very hard and all these things are very serious and you only get one shot and you're going to die soon and it's not going to be worth anything and you need to be very concerned about this. And if it's written from a place of enough authority, that becomes a very strong voice within you, and it can ruin your day and everything, and you feel like, oh man, what was I thinking with all that enlightenment crap? What am I doing with my life? I need to go out there and hustle and beat down the people around me so that I can get ahead, in a nutshell. The other voices that are within you, there's the voice of you that feels like you but is not really you, and is in some ways just an extension of everybody. And you can tell this because this voice that you think is you will often talk to yourself in the second person as though you were two people. And this voice will be like, man, why did you do that? You're screwing this up. What's wrong with you? And you'll say, man, I'm hard on myself right now. And it's because that voice is not you. It's your brain trying to, I don't know, it enjoys the pain, I guess, of beating yourself up. And the things you read on the internet can only empower that voice and make it stronger. If you're reading things that are out of line with trying to realize that those thoughts aren't real. And most people out there identify very strongly with all the thoughts in their brain. Most people identify very strongly with their ego and don't want to accept or entertain the thought even that they are anything except that. Then there's another thing in your head. It's not really it's not a voice. Sometimes it can control the voice, but it's not really a voice, and that's you, and that's the awareness. And that awareness takes a lot of space to exist. You need to be working towards calming the other voices down. And not calming, that's like an active kind of word. Just watching those other voices until they don't have any power, I guess. And by going into the internet so often, you're just feeding the other voices. You're not helping quiet the mind. You're just helping to populate it with other things. And like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm advocating this aesthetic lifestyle where you just cut yourself off from the world. That's not really helpful to anyone. But there is a kind of, especially if you're in the process of working towards it, there's a little bit of a bit of fragility in working towards awareness and stillness and peace that takes time to develop a thicker skin to outside things. And sometimes it's stronger on some days than others. You can be like, I don't care about, these other perspectives are obviously not where I'm coming from, where I want to come from, and I don't need to give them any heed. But then there will be other days where you're weaker and you're thinking to yourself, oh man, what this person wrote on the internet, this is true. And oh look, it's on a media website, and this person, is probably a freelance writer, so they have some authority. When in reality, it might just be some 24-year-old in New York who has connections and got paid $50 to write an article. And yet you've given it this authority, and it's become another voice in your head. I think I want to do another video about Facebook and social media, because I think that can be the most destructive. That's the thing that people are most addicted to. And Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are all about, for most people, all about the ego and propping up the ego and giving lots of heed to your opinions and your thoughts and trying to make yourself distinct in a world so full of people and making yourself feel good about the ego rather than just kind of releasing yourself from it. So I think that'll be another video I make soon. I've actually been more or less Facebook free for 10 years, which is a long time. I signed up for it when it was first out, and it just became too much and I got off of it. Another video, another day. And in short, be very careful about what you put in your brain on the internet, because it's not going to help you solve your problems to drown out your awareness with all these other thoughts. It's not going to help you make decisions unless it's a very specific decision, like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what kind of car I want to buy. Yeah, then by all means go on the internet, search around what people have to say. But if it's like, how can I live my life better? You have to be careful, because there's good stuff out there, and then there's a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, or their decision in life is to go toward a very ego-centered path, which if that's what they want to do, that's fine. What does it matter? But that's not what I want, and that's not what a lot of people want, and don't let that become another voice in your head. So I hope this video wasn't just another voice in your head, that maybe it's just giving you some perspective of something you already were thinking. All right, well, you all have a good week. I'll see you again sometime one day.